Good afternoon. I'm Raji Narayan, President of Art Mantram, and it is my proud privilege to welcome and introduce Sri Chandrasekhar Kambar today. Chandrasekhar Kambar undoubtedly is the cultural phenomenon of modern India. He is an iconic figure in terms of the Indian response to modernity and also in establishing very strongly the native model to encounter it. He is one of the leading dramatists in the country today and also a great poet, a folklorist, novelist, and researcher. A multifaceted genius in creative writing, Kambar is a living legend in the poetry inspired by folk tradition, particularly the folklore and mythology of northern Kannada. After Bendre, Kambar represents for us the genius of the folk imagination, says, "You are Anantamurthy." A poet at heart, Kambar's corpus of literary achievements include 25 plays, 11 poetry collections, 5 novels, 16 research works, and several articles on folk, theatre, literature, and education. Sir, you are a natural poet. You perceive the world with a poet's eyes. Your poetry is interspersed with long narratives steeped in folk culture drawn from the soil. You're also a prolific playwright. Chandrasekhar Kambar draws upon the rich resources from popular speech and folklore with effortless ease. His approach to poetry, according to Girish Karnad, is through the ballad rather than the lyric. The imagery is the action. The metaphor serves to resonate the narrative at different levels. Chandrasekhar Kambar says that his poetry, his theatre, novels are all a part of a homogeneous corpus. The influence of his early environment has had a vibrant resonance which reverberates through all genres of writing. Kambar says, "Indeed, my sense of environment, the manner in which I relate my environment both in time and space, are stories, are fantasies, the images I use, I give character to environment and receive character as a poet." His contribution to fiction is no less as outstanding. In Chakori, it is seen at its mature best. He has made 5 feature films and several documentaries and composed music for them. And his teleserials, his Kadu Kudare, entered the Indian Panorama in 1987 and won the National Award. His film Sangeeta won the State Award for the year 1981. He has received so many awards, prominent among them being the Sangeet Natak Academy Fellowship, the Akademi Ratna Award in 2011, the Gyan Peeth Award in 2011, and the Padma Shri in 2001. We are really honored to have you here with us, sir, and deliver the keynote address. Over to you, Sri Chandrasekhar Kambar.
Hello friends, greetings to you all. I will give you a small introduction to such fascinating conversation on world poetry that I hope will follow in this meet. While I begin by talking about Indian poetry, I must emphasize right at the outset that I am by no means homogenizing all the plural literary and cultural traditions that form the idea of this nation, rather the subcontinent. For a long time now, notions of what constitutes Commonwealth, post-colonial or global literatures have majorly overlapped with Anglophone literatures. This makes it doubly necessary for me to highlight the multiple rich regional and local traditions that constitute what can be called Indian literature. Yet I do see something that gathers together all such plural literary strands in this subcontinent. If I ask myself this question, how have we been different from the dominant Euro-American literary traditions and writings that come out of these locations? My answer would be that we are predominantly storytellers. Whether it is the epic or the folk modes of writing, we have had a strong tradition of storytelling, literatures that addressed and emerged out of the community culture. For instance, think of a range of literary productions in Karnataka over time, both written or oral, whether it is the Vachanas of 12th century or the later Dasarpadas. All these writings address God directly or they speak to a shared devotional community. The writers of these songs do not address an individual in the high modernist style of 20th century writings that emerged later in Indian languages. What I am trying to show is now how, despite the distinct influence and stamp of Euro-American modernism on both English and regional literatures in India, many writers have continued to link themselves with the older native traditions. My own writings, for example, embodies such older folk traditions of Karnataka, the region I come from. No doubt, our colonial past and access to English education and literature during the 20th century led to new trends in Indian writings. New genres such as novel and autobiography surfaced at this time. 19th century models of writing and later the influence of the modernist movement in Europe was patently felt on both Indian English writing and writings in regional languages. We adopted them to our own context in very creative ways. On the other hand, native traditions too did not die out completely. Popular culture nourished these local traditions and literary conventions. Whether they were forms like Yakshagana or Harikatha Kalakshepa in South India, or even our cinema, they are still connected with the earlier modes of reality and myth. However, some Indian writers exhibit the impact of Euro-British literary movements even now. And the question in front of us is, how do we go on from here? Where does our search for a new identity for Indian literature take us? Within the post-colonial and global context of today, when Indian writing in English or even writings in regional languages are finding global visibility due to translations, how do we define our own location and a signature literary style? It is in this wonderful gathering of poets from different parts of the world that I find an opportunity to talk, discuss, debate with, and exchange ideas about such issues related to writing, culture, and identity. Friends, most importantly today, we have all gathered here in a very curious circumstance. Poetry in a time of COVID. What makes us write poetry, and that too in these harrowing times when fear and death surround us all? Is it a primary urge to express ourselves? Is it the intense anxiety of wanting to connect with others, to know that there are others listening, responding and emphasizing with my condition? This anguished desire to communicate is predicated on something that is so natural and so essential inside us. I am a folk poet in the sense that I choose to go back to my folk roots to sing of a contemporary predicament. Who else but a poet rooted in such folk culture can understand these times of human loss and loneliness better? For a writer who cherishes this idea of folk community and its life-giving values, these bonds we forge with other people, however tenuous they seem in these virtual digital environments, are still very important. The folk was sang to preserve the experiences of their generation and of their past. They sang to make the new generation new and become a part of this folk community. Today, I will recite too. I will recite my poem to you all on this new and somewhat alienating virtual medium because I want to reach out to you. When I feel that you are there somewhere, but still with me, waiting to hear me recite this poem of mine, I do not feel alone anymore. I do not feel that this corona crisis has broken the bonds of kinship between writer and reader, singer and listener, you and me. In a sense, this web meet is still a space where poetry can happen and a space where we can all gather together for this collective experience of poetry. Listen to me. ಕವಿತೆ ಹೆಸರು ಆ ಮರ ಈ ಮರ. ನದಿಯ ದಂಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮರ, ನದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮರ. ಮ್ಯಾಲೆ ನಿಜವಾದ ಮರ, ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಿಂಬಿಸಿದ ಮರ. ಮ್ಯಾಲಿನ ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಚಿಲಿಪಿಲಿ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಗೀತಂಗಳ ಕುಕಿಲುತ ರೆಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಂಚುಗಳಿಂದ ಎಲೆಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕನಸುಗಳ ಗೀಚುತ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ, ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬೇರುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಚಿಳಿಮಿಳಿ ಮೀನು ಆಳ ಸುಳಿಯುತ್ತಾ ನೆರಳು ಬೆಳಕಿನ ಬಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈಜುತ್ತಾ ನೆನಪುಗಳ ಕೆರಳಿಸುತ್ತಾವೆ. ತೆರೆ ಎದ್ದಾಗ ಒಂದು ನಡುಗುತ್ತದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ನಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಆದರೂ ಡೆಪ್ರಿಲಿ ಮಿತ್ರ, ತುದಿಗಳು ಎರಡಾದರೂ ಬೇರು ಒಂದೇ ಈ ಮರಗಳಿಗೆ. ನೀನೊಂದು ಮರ ಹತ್ತಿದರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಳಿಯುತ್ತಿ. ತಲೆ ಮೇಲಾಗಿ ಹತ್ತುತ್ತೀಯ, ತಲೆ ಕೆಳಗಾಗಿ ಇಳಿಯುತ್ತೀಯ. ಮ್ಯಾಲೆ ನೀಲಿಯ ಬಯಲು, ಕೆಳಗೆ ಅದರ ನಕಲು. ಎರಡೂ ಬಯಲುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೇ ಮೌನ. ಹತ್ತುತ್ತಾ ಗಾಳಿಯಾಗುತ್ತಿ ಅಂತ ತಿಳಿ. ಆದರೂ ನೆಪ್ಪಿರಲಿ, ಕೆಳಕ್ಕಿಳುವ ಕರ್ಮ ತಪ್ಪಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಹತ್ತುವುದು ನಿನ್ನ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿದ್ದರೂ ಇಳಿಯೋದು ನಿನ್ನ ಕೈ ಮೀರಿದ್ದು. ಹತ್ತಿದವರು ಸ್ವರ್ಗ ಸೇರುವರೆಂದು ಸುದ್ದಿ, ನಮಗದು ಖಾತ್ರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮುಳುಗಿದವರಿಗೆ ಪಾತಾಳ ಖಚಿತ, ಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ಖಾತ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಈ ಕಥೆಯ ದುರಂತ ದೋಷ ಯಾವುದೆಂದರೆ, ನಿಜವಾದ ಮರ ಮತ್ತು ನೀರಿನ ಮರ ಇವೆರಡೂ ಒಂದಾದ ಸ್ಥಳ ಮಾಯವಾಗಿರೋದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೇನೋ ಗೆಳೆಯ, ಮ್ಯಾಲೆ ಹತ್ತಿದರೂ ತಲೆ ಕೆಳಗಾಗಿ ನೇತಾಡುವುದು ತಪ್ಪಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಮ್ಯಾಲಿಂದ ಜಿಗಿದು ತಳ ಮುಟ್ಟಿ ಮಾಯವಾದ ನೆಲವ ಹುಡುಕಬೇಕೋ ಹುಡುಕಿ ಬದುಕಬೇಕು. Translation of the poem, it goes like this. A tree by the side of a river and another within. Above the real tree and below the tree reflected. One shivers when the waves appear and the other smiles. But remember, the tops are two, and yet the root is one for these two trees. As you climb up the one, you climb down the other. Your head will be held high as you climb and turned down as you climb down the other. The blue field above, its reflection below, and one silence in both of them. think that you will become thin air as you climb up. But remember, you are destined to come down. Going up is your decision. Coming down is something beyond you. Those who climb up will reach the heaven, it is said. We are not sure. But those who drawn will reach down, it is certain. The point of merging of the real tree and the tree reflected has vanished. And that is the tragic flaw of this story. That is why I will tell you, my friend, even if you climb up, you cannot help hanging your head downwards. Jump, reach the bottom, and search the vanished land. Search and live. Thank you very much.